So now that we've taken a few minutes to reflect on the nature of seasons themselves, let's hone in a little bit deeper on the season of summer. I don't know if summer to you is a great season, a season of joy, or a season that you kind of don't really look forward to, or perhaps it's a bit of both. It's a little bit bittersweet. You like some aspects, but you don't like others. I just encourage you to hold all of that, and that's all okay. But what I want us to do is reflect on summer, bearing in mind kind of our working definition for the day in terms of what we think the spiritual season of summer is like. So I'm going to read this from Mark Buchanan. This is kind of how we're defining the spiritual season of summer as we enter into our day. So in the heart's summertime, we experience vitality, connectedness, rest. Summer abounds in play and fruitfulness, warmth and shade. There's ample daylight where we find sheer delight in God and all he's made. God and others draw intimately near, light and life surround us, and night and morning flee. Summertime gives us a taste of the kingdom. It's savoring a morsel of heaven, sweet and brief, where God, fully present, shines light day and night. Simply, things flow. Life is marked by effortlessness. Fruit comes easily, joy rises naturally, light shines everywhere, and you have energy to spare. That's kind of how we're understanding the idea of summer today. And I don't know about you, but I really resonate with that as a sentiment, that sense of flowing serenity, that effortlessness, play, warmth, life and light. And the Hebrew word for this kind of experience or this sort of state is shalom. It has to do with this kind of deep, profound sense of everything being as it should be. And there are various passages in the Bible which try to do what Mark Buchanan has done here, which, you know, to describe shalom in relatable terms. One of my favorites of these is Micah chapter 4. This passage comes in the middle of a book of prophecy that is mostly focusing on all of the things that are going wrong in Israel, all of the ways in which Israel is not experiencing shalom and all the reasons why it's not experiencing shalom, because it's sort of mostly their fault. But here we're given a brief picture of how Israel is meant to be, the shalom that God desires that they experience. And this is how it portrays that state. So I'm just going to read from Micah chapter 4, verse 1 to verse 5. In the last days, the mountain of the Lord's temple will be established as chief among the mountains. It will be raised above the hills, and peoples will stream to it. Many nations will come and say, "Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob. He will teach us his ways, so that we may walk in his paths." The law will go out from Zion, the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. He will judge between many peoples and will settle disputes for strong nations far and wide. They will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not take up sword against nation, nor will they train for war anymore. Every man will sit under his own vine and under his own fig tree, and no one will make them afraid, for the Lord Almighty has spoken. All the nations may walk in the name of their gods. We will walk in the name of the Lord our God forever and ever. And it's this kind of penultimate verse in this passage that's my favorite. This idea of everyone will sit under their vine and fig tree, their own vine and their own fig tree. And I love this image for a few different reasons. First, it speaks of deep rest rather than frantic work. So at this point, there's no more planting or harvesting of the trees taking place. There is simply a contentment, this lovely idea of just sitting and just being as things continue to exist as they are. It's not that work isn't a valuable part of life or part of how things should be, but in this particular image of shalom, we're given a picture of relaxation that falls maybe sometime after or before the work of planting or harvesting has taken place. So it's about deep rest. Secondly, it speaks about this kind of quiet contentment. This is not about excessiveness. I love the fact that it's not every man has their own vineyard or their own orchard of fig trees. Well, I don't know what the collective noun for a fig tree is, but there you go. It's not about having more than what you need. It's about finding contentment in having enough to be at peace with the world. So it's not about being distracted by desperation and scrabbling around for essential resources, or about craving more than is necessary. Shalom comes from a happy sense of enoughness. It's about quiet contentment. And third, to me, it speaks of simple luxuries. So grapes and figs were not scarce in the world that Israel inhabited, but they were still considered delicacies. So they were objects of pleasure. They were like small luxuries. They represented blessing, and they carried with them the idea, the anticipation of joy and celebration. I don't know what your equivalent, therefore, to this image would be. What does your version of deep rest and quiet contentment and simple luxury involve? I think mine looks like sitting in a garden with friends in the early evening, the sun's sort of still high enough and warm enough that, you know, shorts and sunglasses are warranted. And there's the smells of the barbecue we've just enjoyed lingering in the air. And there's a fire pit crackling in the background. And I've got a glass of crisp, perfectly chilled white wine in my hand. I think that for me is my image of sitting under the vine and the fig tree. It's not extravagance, but it's one of enjoying the simple pleasures in life. It's not frantic, it's restful. And it brings with it this sense of serenity and peace, enjoyment. So here's a couple of thoughts for you to reflect on when you get a chance. And maybe we'll feed back on these when we gather together after lunch for our Zoom call. 2 questions. Firstly, what would your prophetic image of a summer season look like? What's your equivalent of my post-barbecue glass of white wine with friends? And secondly, when was the last time you felt like you experienced that kind of season of summer in your life? And what did that look like? What did that involve? I want to invite you to spend some time thinking about that and reflecting on it. Maybe have a conversation in your families about that or with a friend. And as I say, maybe we'll feed back on that when we're on Zoom together after lunch. But just think, what is my prophetic vision of summer like? And when was the last time I think I experienced that season for myself? What did that involve? Enjoy your reflecting, and I look forward to connecting with you properly this afternoon.